charism. And so I graduated from college in 2016 by Sister St. Joseph. And I absolutely fell in love with charism, of uniting neighbor with God without distinction. And as I reflect about how that particular charism, transformed my life, and how it kind of redirected my life, and now I'm here at BC studying Catholic higher education, to not let these charisms die out, because I think that these charisms bring so much healing into our world in a diverse way of doing that. And so when I read, these different quotes of Dalzahn, and working at BC as a Jesuit university, I think about, as a young person, we cannot let these charisms die out. And I think about, particularly a number of years ago, the Sister of St. Joseph back in Springfield sold their mother house. And it was a time of major transitions for the congregation. So some sisters were sent to here in Brighton, actually, and Framingham as well. So it was a time of major transition. And so as a college founded by the sisters, we were kind of in that experience with them, supporting them along that time of transition. And I remember a sister who particularly I was having a conversation with her about this, and she says, this is some really hard times. There's a lot of funerals on an average week. We're selling our mother house. But you see, it's not about the buildings. It's not about, the institutions. It is about keeping the spirit alive. And I think that as I continue to pursue my own journey, my own vocation, I think that's the guiding fact that continues to push me forward, is how do we keep these charisms alive at our Catholic universities. So wherever I find myself in now that I'm at BC, now how do I keep the Jesuit charism alive with the students? One of the things that I find interesting is that now that I'm immersed in academia and this academic setting, is that I'm much more grounded in the gospel of humility and the gospel of service. Because as you know, academia can be very heady. And kind of when I read this thing about how we have to leave space for God to work, in academia there's hardly any space for God to work. And I work with college freshmen, and a lot of these freshmen think that they're really more important than they really are, and that the world revolves around them. That's not only the freshmen, though, it's all the administrators. But I think that one of the things that I found myself doing is that kind of talking about these basic things about love and compassion and humility and mercy and encounter. And so it's a strange thing that I can say that my life has been totally blessed and transformed, and I could never say that I would ever thought myself about pursuing a degree in Catholic higher ed at BC, but it's because of that charism. And so I think for the religious in the room, I thank you for kind of giving off and sharing that charism with us, the young people. And that is my hope that as a young person I can continue pushing on that charism for the world. So I think that, as I say, and I say this everywhere that I go, that charisms transform our world and our society, and it kind of is renewing it. And so I'm doing whatever that I can to keep that fire going. So thank you.
Thank you.
That's good.
I want to comment on what you said, Andrew, about charisms. In my class in pastoral theology at the seminary, which is my favorite class this semester, we're learning about how priests, religious, one of our callings is to foster charisms among the laity. And I think in that spirit I want to qualify your statement and to universalize it a little bit more as to say that we all have charisms. Everybody, laity, religious, everybody. And one of the things that we can do as religious is to help the laity look inside themselves and look at themselves and see, like, what are the gifts that God has given me? Father Roland, during, the Feast of All Saints, you gave a really powerful homily on what true sanctity is. And I posted one of your quotes on Instagram. I'm sorry. You said, know who you are and live from that wealth. I think that if we start to speak in those terms to everybody, not just religious, but to everybody, and to make them understand that there is like a deep spring inside of everybody where life comes from, the world, as you said, Andrew, will be transformed. So I incredibly appreciate what you said, but I think that it can be even further universalized and qualified. And I think that that's kind of how, as Father Dalzon said, the world will be transformed by a Christian idea. Thank you.
Because if I search too hard, I will no doubt impose a certain all too human view of things that will stand in the way of how Providence sees things. So I know that my sister at the moment is she's younger than me, she's 18, she's just finishing the HSC, which is like finals, I guess, in Australia. And there's like, I don't know, a certain attitude, I guess, or belief that at that age you're supposed to know what you should be, doing in life. And the thing is, I feel like a lot of my friends back home are actually older than me, and they're still figuring that out. And I think it's a process which is just ever continuing. You know what I mean? Even I think you were saying, Sylvia, like, it's always you still are surprised by what how God can lead us, if you know what I mean. And I also think that being here it's kind of we're seeing Father Dalzon's mission being realised, because we're in a house full of young people, full of students who are studying and trying to figure this out. But we have things like this today, and just by conversing with everyone in the house, we're, I guess, figuring out that it's really God who has that plan for us. And we can plan our lives so much, but it's really Him who's that we should let Him have control of. So yeah, I think that kind of resonated with me, that quote today.
Thank you.
Because I think the focus was on the initial days, and then after that the crisis. I'm glad to know that his works flourish and got to see that happening. But I also saw what resonated with me is the desire, something that I sort of share, the desire to try to transform society. Because I think you mentioned as well, even Father Dalzon worked on this last time, but our society, we still have this materialism and relativism and all this marketplace of ideas that's really making society very sick. And he tried very hard to try to do it, but there is really a lot of work to do, and today we see it in front of our face. And that is something that I also want to do as well, to try to contribute in some way on how can we reorientate society, and I think that's what we're all trying to do, which can be very scary at times. And I think Father Danny sharing about Father Dalzon is very, very encouraging, very edifying, because we know that it's really not, it reminds us not to depend on our intellect, on our resources, but rather on God. And in fact at times, it's not when we are at our brightest, that things happen, rather, but it's actually when we are down, and we are humble, and when we let God work, and things happen. So I think that's very, very encouraging to me, because I don't have to always be completely prepared, to be completely resourceful, but if I have faith and I let God do His work, and a lot more things can happen. So that what struck me from the sharing. Thank you.
In relation to those who live the experience, because today we talk about Dalzon, a person from the past, and then living that carries him until now. For the next time, it will be a celebration, and at the same time, that it will be the topic of that conversation. So we invite you again, because for the next conversations, we will be celebrating the the Golden Jubilee of Sister Claire and Father Roger. Their experience of life as religious for 50 years. And then in that experience, they would share to us, like, what is that life all about? And then what can we learn from that experience? So we expect you to be here to celebrate and then to really have that experience with them. So it will be the Golden Jubilee celebration of Sister Claire and Father Roger.
We have to allow more time for that.
Again, thank you for this beautiful day. And I think just a last note to end our conversations is that we talked about charisms. We talked about thoughts and insights and changes and all in God's hands and all in God's presence. But I think that one important part that we can mention here is that if we live in that experience of allowing God to have some space in our lives, we can resonate to what Father Dalson mentioned here. I am seeing things in a different point of view. I think that will be very helpful to all of us to see things in God's point of view, in the experience of God in us and through us, that we will see that point of view lived as an experience for all of us.